Hey, I'm Joe Plecker. I'm your host at Golf Ground Up, and I've been coaching golf for nearly 30 years, and I've been working with all kinds of technology in this journey, and it's been an amazing time to be a golf coach in my career. It spanned a time where we didn't have any technology, and then things like cameras and high-speed cameras came along, and radar, TrackMan, Foresight. Then we started to see 3D motion, and then really ground reaction forces started to come up, which is pressure plates and force plates in the golf swing. And working a lot in that ground up feel of what's going on underneath the player, how your feet work on the ground, has been fascinating, and it's been something that has opened up so many understandings about the golf swing that I can't wait to share with you. One of the important things to know about my motivation for creating this site is so that everyone can have access to the world's best information when it comes to ground forces. And not everyone gets a chance to stand on pressure and force plates. But what everyone can do is learn what the world's best players are all doing and what each one's doing uniquely for them. So what I want to do is give you first a really quick tour of the Swing Catalyst Studio. I want to show you the equipment that we use. And then I'm going to give you a little tour inside the system so you can see when we capture a golf swing exactly what we're looking at. And this is a very important basic in understanding as we then start to look at more use cases and we look at some great drills and practice things that you can do for your game. So I hope this helps your game. I hope this helps your understanding. I hope that we can interact and you can share any questions or ideas that you might have. And I'm just very excited to give what I think is some of the most important information about helping you with your golf game. So let's take a look around the studio. Let's take a look at the elements of the Swing Catalyst Studio. And first I want to go to the cameras. And cameras are fixed, and we love these very cool cameras. That's actually the camera right there. The lens is actually bigger than the camera itself. They're Ethernet connected, and they provide a great signal. We've got this one's positioned face on right towards the golfer, and there's a left-handed face on one over there. We have a downline camera, and the downline camera also the super high speed. We've got these really dialed in, and you can tell the positioning of the camera is going to be right on the player's forearm when we look at him from downline. Old saying is, if you don't like the swing, move the camera. So these are fixed for a reason, and we like this perspective. Now, when we get video data, it also syncs up with radar data. So the shot that you hit, we get to see where the club, impact, and flight data went. And this is the Foresight Sports GC Quad. And the quad means that there are 4 cameras. And you can see those camera eyes looking back at us. And they're actually positioned to be a little bit back here. And they're going to capture the club hitting the golf ball from this perspective. And the cameras get a really good view of the face of the golf club. Now, to use a GC Quad, we mark up the club face. I can put these metal dots on the club, and what they do is they provide a point of reference that the quad knows where the club face is, and it can give us some great data. So we really like that because it gives some awesome perspective of the collision of the club and ball, and it captures the ball as it flies away for some launch and flight data. Now we also have, as radar, TrackMan. And legendary TrackMan, it sits downline. It is a Doppler radar tracking device, ground-to-air Doppler radar, and has an internal camera where it can capture some swings from back there. That's how we actually aim the device. We know where it's pointed. Self-leveling, so it can be put on any surface. And when we place it behind, the club is actually passing through the radar cloud. And that's what we're picking up to understand path and swing direction. The collision of impact is recorded. We can see a lot of flight data come from TrackMan too for the impact and flight data we get. And that's all captured back into the Swing Catalyst system. So once we have our video and radar, we want to go check out the plates.
Now, this is a dual swing catalyst system, and what that means is we can separate a force and pressure by left and right. And so the player's lead foot goes on the left, trail foot goes on the right. It's flipped around for lefties. It works just fine for left-handed players as well. But in this case, I've got my left foot on the left, right foot on the right. And what's underneath here? There's actually the force plate itself. And there's actually two of these that are stacked on top of each other. The top plate is getting pressure data, and the plate that's underneath of it is being told how hard the person's shifting, turning, and pushing up and down out of the ground. And when we get a force, we talk about forces later, these are incredible because we can separate the force. I can tell you how much the right foot is contributing and how much the left foot's contributing to that total force. Gives a great picture. So when someone steps up here, we get to see their feet, we get club and ball data, and we capture their swing all at once. Let's take a look back at the station of where all this goes. And all the cameras and force plate data and pressure comes out of this conduit from underground, and it feeds into a really strong CPU that we have that's recording the video camera. There's a video card down there, and there's a lot of connections here for the dual plate system. So all of that comes back into the portal up here, which I can easily show you now between the camera, the radar, pressure, and force data.
All right, so we've got a great camera set up. We've got our player on the plate, left foot on left, right foot on right, and we're triggering using TrackMan, getting ball flight data, club path, club data, spin and flight, all captured in one portal. And we can see a static stance width. That's the stance width right before the club starts back. And you might notice that the stance width is actually captured by this really important thing. Where you see that ball, that's called the center of pressure under the left foot and the center of pressure under the right foot. So it's not the distance between the feet, but what's actually touching the mat. And that's such an important distinction. So this player, Tim O'Neill, putting right in the center line of his feet, and we're at 19 inches apart. Now, there's a percentage of pressure, what's touching the ground. Right now, 59% on left, 41 on right. And you're going to notice as we start back, that pressure moves just a little bit left and then pulls away. And you're seeing a trace now. This ball in the middle here is called a center of pressure. And that center of pressure is dynamic. It's moving, and it's moving pressure. And we like to see when pressure moves what part of the foot is engaging on the ground. And in this case, a little more the right heel, and as we shift pressure back towards the front foot, it engages the left foot, the ball of the left foot on the ground. So the pressure shifting back and forth creates this shape called a trace. And the trace doesn't always match the path. It's not necessarily a swing path related, it's more about what the force of the player, what that player is trying to do. And we're just seeing it. I call it a signature. It's like how you sign your name on a document. And a lot of times we'll see a player hit shots of different intensity, and that trace, just like a signature, keeps showing up, just like you're writing your name bigger or smaller. So that in general is what we look at from the pressure. Let's take a look at forces. When we're recording forces, we're using a slightly different screen for playback, but you can see I've got the downline and face on video prominently. All my launch monitor data is tabbed in the top, and we've got these three forces: a horizontal force, a torque force, and a vertical force. And you may notice that I've tabbed the golf swing, and when I tab the swing, I've got these 3 points. There's the first arrow is over the start of the takeaway, and you can see that right here in the timing of the force. We've got the top of the backswing as the second tab. That's an important thing. And then we see the impact position right there when we get to here, that impact point. And
these are really critical when we're looking at forces to know what happened, what force happened in what order, when it happened in the golf swing, and the magnitude of that force. But you're seeing a horizontal, a torque, and a vertical force. There's the peak of the horizontal first, there's the peak of the torque second, and there's the peak of the vertical third. That's a law. Shifting, turning, and rising in the golf swing. Getting those three forces to happen in that order is very critical. And the timing of those forces is also critical. Now, the magnitude is unique. You might have a player like Tim here who shifts and lifts a little bit more strong than they torque or turn, but that's a recipe that Tim O'Neill uses to be one of the longest hitters on the Champions Tour. When we look at this data, it's going to help make sense of how you use the ground based on how your gripping, stance, and posture work in your initial swing. But I hope this gives you some insight on what we capture, how we capture it, what are important data points, the timing of that data, and give us a baseline to start working on your game.